let me bring in my panel. Evan Siegfried, a Republican strategist, Eddie Glaude, an MSNBC contributor and professor at Princeton University. We've seen this from this president before. He has something on his agenda. Today it's tax cuts. He writes an op-ed in USA Today. He has been making the case for it in a way that a lot of Republicans said he should have done, frankly, when he was trying to do health care. And then he tweets to the widow of a fallen U.S. soldier saying, "You're lying. That's not what I said." I don't even know what the question is, but what's going on here?
I want to ask Trump supporters a simple question. Are you proud? Are you proud that a president like this shows that he is devoid of character and says it's okay to basically attack very subtly the widow of Liv David Johnson, who gave his life for this country under circumstances which we're still trying to find out?
Well, I don't even know that it's subtle. He says, I spoke his name from the beginning without hesitation. He is directly contradicting what the widow just said this morning.
Yes, he is. And he's never shown himself to be the bigger man. He had never demonstrated in the campaign that he had the character, the judgment, and the temperament to be president of the United States, and he's demonstrating it now. I understand that there are a lot of supporters of his who are angry at the media, but what David Johnson's widow said is not a partisan issue. It's a moral issue, and the president has failed this moral test. And it's very distressing that we have somebody in the Oval Office that nobody can even tell their kids to end up being like and should be even a role model.
And I don't care what your politics are. You listen to Maisha Johnson. Right. You see those pictures that we just showed of her and her husband. She's pregnant. They have children. She's talking about what she's going to tell her daughter, who has yet to be born, about her heroic father. And it's part of a larger story here, which is she wants answers. Right. Every American who has lost someone in the line of duty, war is hell, war is confusing. I don't want to draw any conclusions about what the military has done or not done, but what needs to happen now, Eddie?
Well, there are two things I want to emphasize. One is it's the kind of lack of knowledge around what happened in Niger. She's emphasizing, I want to know what happened to my husband. And that takes us to the question of this open-ended war on terror. Where is congressional oversight? She's entered that fray. We need to know what is going on. If Lindsey Graham doesn't know, if Chuck Schumer doesn't know, Maisha Johnson doesn't know, and she just lost her husband.
Yeah, Lindsey Graham says the whole mission was a mystery.
Right. He didn't know 1,000 troops. He didn't know 1,000 troops were there. And then the second issue is that Trump lies. He is the president of the United States, the most powerful man in the world, is a liar. There's no reason for us to believe him. And in this instance, I think he's lying, and it reveals, I believe, that he's a moral monster in these regards. I want to say this is monstrous in his response. And I want to say this, too, in relation to the tax cut, that the fact that he lies here in relation to a mother, a Gold Star family, he's also lying with regards to whether or not this tax cut stuff will actually impact and affect working people in this country.
Well, let's turn to tax cuts, because the quote from Lamar Alexander, he says, if the president of the United States focuses on one thing with everything he's got for as long as it takes, he can usually get what he wants. Evan, is that true? And clearly already we have seen since Lamar Alexander said that the president can't focus on one thing.
Well, the president can't multitask, obviously. Yeah. But I think that the president, if he were able to be have this laser-like focus, he would absolutely be able to help tax reform, or tax relief is the phrase du jour going around. And I think that there are Americans who want to see things simplified. We saw the trial balloon over the weekend of lowering the cap on 401k contributions and what is taxable to $2,400. If you were under 50, it was only $18,000, and if you were over 50, it was $24,000. That's almost a 90% cut for if you're over 50. And I don't think that helps any American. We're seeing other things being pushed back against, like the SALT deduction being eliminated. I think that's a completely unfair thing to do, because it essentially allows the government to triple tax you on the same amount of money at the city level, the local or the state level, and at the federal level. At the same time, you're seeing a lot of Republicans who are fiscal hawks or deficit hawks say, wait a second, though we're not seeing any spending cuts to offset all of the tax cuts that are going out there. There are people who are very concerned that government has a spending addiction. I'm one of them, and I only hear about new taxes being floated. No, we actually have to man up and actually cut.
Yeah, in the related cuts. And here's what Senator Joe Manchin told Casey Hunt on her new show just yesterday.
The conversations I've had with President Trump is completely different what I'm seeing coming out from whether it's Mitch McConnell or whether it's Paul Ryan, whatever side it's coming from. The president was very adamant. He said, Joe, it's not going to be a tax cut for the rich. It's for working, the middle class.
So we just heard Joe Manchin say the president says this is going to be a middle-class tax cut, but that's not the bill I'm seeing.
Right, right. We know that the talk of cutting the corporate rate from 35% to 20%. We've seen even Larry Summers has come out and said in an op-ed in the Washington Post that whatever the Congressional Budget Office, whatever his Director of Economic Policy is suggesting, that the numbers just simply don't bear out. Right? We're not going to see any kind of correlation between these cuts and increases in real wages of working people.
And I'm happy that people are disparaging people he says he knows to be brilliant economists.
Exactly. And then when you combine this with the reality of what we know, right, when this sort of tax policy has been implemented in a place like Kansas, what did we see? What have we seen? We've seen everyday working people who are busting their behinds to make ends meet, right, not benefit, actually lose ground. And so if Trump's election was about changing, emptying the swamp, changing the path, the course, what we're seeing here is business as usual.
And drop into the middle of this Steve Bannon in the past couple of days, who's gone after a number of Republicans that the president will need if he's going to get tax reform through. Let me just play a little bit of Steve Bannon.
The United States Senate in particular has done, I think, a terrible job as appointing President Trump. John McCain deserves our respect. However, as a politician, John McCain's just another senator from Arizona.
And he also went off after people like the former president, George W. Bush. Evan, Donald Trump says he thinks taking a hard line with fellow Republicans actually is a good idea. It helps get things done. Do you agree?
No. I think it's,
in a word,
it's like dating. If I want to ask a girl out, I'm not going to go out and attack her constantly and then say, all right, let's go out and get a drink. That's the president's approach. He's attacking Bob Corker, and Bob Corker is one of those deficit hawks who's got some real reservations about this tax bill. And I think there are a lot of people who are looking for the president to have that sort of Washington schmoozing relationship. We saw a Washington Post piece out this morning talking about how the president can't really make any deals, and he's actually not a good deal maker. We even saw that when he made that deal with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, because he said, we made this big deal, but Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi got exactly what they asked for at first, and Republicans didn't even get any sort of concession or compromise. Why? The president wanted to spite Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan. We don't know as Republicans where he is on this issue. And remember, when he's tweeting and talking, it's not I and we, it's the and they, the Republicans. He's never identifying as one of us, and there is this hesitation and gulf growing between both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue.
I want to bring back Evan and Eddie. Look, he talked about, the potential for the CIA and the FBI to be embarrassed by something, but it also, you cannot look at it out of the context of not only is this a president who has, I don't want to say peddled, who has operated within the sphere of conspiracy theories, but put one forward related to the JFK assassination and Ted Cruz's father.
Absolutely. So, I mean, for folks like me, this is a treasure trove.
Yeah.
Scholars around the country are really kind of chomping at the bit, wanting to get their hands into this, particularly presidential scholars and American historians, 20th century American historians. This will be wonderful for them. But then it's going to be really good for conspiracy theorists.
Yep.
So you think about Roger Stone, who tweeted out that he actually recommended that Trump release all of these documents, and Alex Jones. And so these folks are going to actually use this to kind of, shall we say, deepen their critique of the deep state. That here they believe that something will be made clear, evidence will be gathered to show that the state was up to something.
Yeah, is there another movie in this for Oliver Stone, maybe? Who knows? But what are you thinking about this? I mean, I don't think even you have to be a historian, and I understand their interest is a little different than, say, mine, but especially if you were alive at the time of the assassination, you kind of lived through all of the long investigations and the Warren Commission and all of the origination of the conspiracy theories. This is just fascinating.
It's going to have some wow moments for people as we go back and are able to see what actually happened and see a fuller picture. At the same time, I think it's going to be a Rorschach test for everybody, because if you believe in a conspiracy, second gunman on the grassy knoll, you're going to probably see things that will back it up. And if you don't, you're going to see things will back up your point of view. So I think that a lot of people are going to have a really fun and interesting debate that isn't as serious as some of the debates we're having right now, and it's much more, well, what happened, and a lot more theories and positive conversation between Americans.
Do you really think that? Because one of the things I thought, and again, I don't know what's in there that might be possibly dangerous for our national security. What I do know is that exactly what you say is going to happen will happen, that there will be a lot of people out there who are going to even pile on with more conspiracy theories. I think it's going to continue, I think, a kind of dialogue potentially in this country that has not been very healthy for us.
I think so, but I think transparency in this instance is always the best. I think we need these documents. They need to be out there. I think scholars, particularly, I'm being self-interested, we need the material so that we can.
What do you want to know? What's the one thing you're hoping is in this treasure trove of documents?
I just want to get a better sense of the actors, the players, the context. I want to get a better sense of the various agencies in their role. I want to get a better sense of what were the surrounding elements that led to this horrific moment in U.S. history that has had, shall we say, an aftermath, ripple effects that have been really serious. So I think, for me, we may get some detail about why and how. And as we try to answer that question, I don't think it will be answered definitively with this material, but we can get closer to it.
Evan, what do you want to hear?
I just want to hear things that are interesting. I think we've heard a lot of stuff from Oliver Stone to the government itself, and I think it would just be a really good time to sit down and go through some facts. I will say this, though. In Robert Caro's The Passage of Power, it's probably the most riveting account I've ever read or seen of the assassination of JFK itself, or himself, and I want to see how this fits into that as well.
You know what struck me, and I should have asked the producers to pull it up, but in the Washington Post, when I looked at this story this morning, there's a picture in the car of JFK and Jackie, and they're both smiling. They both look so genuinely happy in whatever that moment was, and I don't know what that moment was. And I had just seen the pictures of LaDavid Johnson and his wife, and they're in some happy moments. And it was also about a life cut short and answers that people feel they need to have. And for a lot of people, whether they were alive at that time or not, there still are answers that they feel that they want to the assassination of the President of the United States.
Closure is always good.
Yeah. Thank you both very much for being with us this hour.